Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another special Cobra interview on the Victory of Light radio show. I'm your host, Rob Potter. My producers, Bob Charles of the Pyramid1Network.com, and of course, the producer, the Magic Man of the Land Down Under, John Allen. Thank you for your time and patience. I want to thank Ricky Serafico, Danelle Glade, Sam Ritchie, Stephen Smalley, everyone else who contributed to the show, especially Cobra. Ricky does a great job, does a lot of work. Sam does some editing, and Danelle does the transcribing. It's a team effort here, and I want to thank all of them for helping to support this mission in the Victory of the Light. I'd like to thank all of you who have sent me so many nice, kind letters and positive support for my work and what I'm doing here. I apologize, folks. This show has been a little bit late, and I apologize to Cobra as well. We did have a file I listened to a couple of minutes after each show. They seem to be okay. We did have some Skype connections. Did hear a little warble with Cobra, but I was hearing him fine. Unfortunately, the Skype was dropping out. We're going to check this after about 10 minutes and make sure we have a good file here. So I apologize for the lateness of the show, and I apologize to Cobra. We're going to be re-asking some questions here. Cobra's blog spot, everyone knows who listens here, and my website, The Promise Revealed. We do appreciate your being in touch with us and connecting with us and supporting us in our work. We work very hard, and we thank you for that. My conference this summer is going to be great with Alex Collier, Michael Sell. I just finished an interview with him, and I believe this Cobra interview is going to come up right around the same time as the first interview with the ambassador of the Red Dragon Society, and I have a two-part interview with Alex Collier coming out, which I'm sure you folks are going to enjoy. So without further ado, reminding you about my Mount Shasta conference. There's still tickets available if you want to get that on the website there and click on the upcoming events or the Mount Shasta conference from August 19th to the 23rd. We'll be very appreciative and happy to see you there. In the meantime, we're going to get right down to business here. And as I started the last show, I haven't announced this yet, but I've spoken to Corey Good ET for 3 hours. He seems like a really nice and sincere guy. He's shared some experiences with me. I feel he's sincere and honest. You know, anytime you're dealing with these, the military stuff and that whole mindset and the secret space program with all of the different viewpoints of this group and that group, a lot of information for us to wade through. And of course, we have my emissary of light, my friend Cobra here, who everyone knows I support and love. There's a lot of information out there. Cobra is absolutely, in my opinion, of high integrity, very well intended, a sincere individual, and is consciously working for the light. Does all of this information match with everyone else? No. We talked about this. I talked about this with Corey and Cobra. I've been trying to get them together on an interview, or to talk to each other at least, but they both indicated to me separately that they wanted to acknowledge that no matter what the differences are, it sounds like, if we take both of them on face value, I'll play the reporter here, the sympathetic reporter, that the information that they're giving is both intended for the liberation of the planet. And we all have to use discernment and to look within. And I think Corey has stated it. My interview with the ambassador also stated it, that people need to look within and find the answers and realize their power. And Cobra has stated it many times, that we need to raise our vibrations. Cobra's information is empowering to us to understand the whole truth. And it is with that little preamble here, it's with great honor and respect, Cobra, I welcome you once again to the Victory of the Light radio show.
Thank you again for your invitation.
Well, Cobra, I'm so sorry for the delay last week, but we started off talking again and about the Corey Good, the ET thing, and the little differences and people attacking each other. We're going to recommend that Cobra followers, Tolek followers, anyone who disagrees with Corey or anyone who disagrees with Cobra, he's already been through the mill of being attacked, and he knows what Corey's going through. It's important that we keep the light workers together and focused in a kind of a patient-neutral mode to absorb this information. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. Attacking any of the light warriors or the light workers doesn't make any sense. Especially now it's time to unify forces, support each other, because we have the same goal, and that is the planetary liberation.
Well, thank you very much for that. We've had a lot of questions about the Corey Good ET information and your views on it. We have spoken privately, and I think you've mentioned several times, though you can't confirm certain things he said, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And I think that Corey's information, he certainly seems to be very compartmentalized. He was a super soldier type of character, spending time in outer space for allegedly 20 years and then coming back to Earth. earth and not really having the kind of spiritual background and the Blue Sphere Alliance. I'd like you to just on your own, whatever you feel is important about our information in regards to what he's talking about. Obviously you've been very highly ethical in your comments. When you comment on other information, you never comment on another person. And I really respect you for that. It's one of the wonderful parts of being Cobra is your neutrality and you're not stirring the pot. But is there anything you can comment on that you feel is important in regards to the new revelations of Corey Goode? Obviously it's all positive, but if you want to just talk as long as you want about any particular incidences that he has, just on your own, anything that you'd have to say about his information.
First, I would like to say that I completely support his basic direction in forgiveness, unification, self-growth, and all that is something that I can only support, and I can only say yes to this. So this is something that I would like to support completely. Regarding his intel, from my sources, I can confirm that he was involved in the secret space program. And there are many parts of his intel that I agree completely. So I would say that he has some real gems in there if you know where to find them. But I couldn't confirm through my sources that he is actually having those out of the planet conferences. So you will have to use your own inner guidance and your inner discernment about that part. Actually, it's very wise to use inner guidance and discernment about any intel that is out there, including mine. Because I can also sometimes make mistakes. I'm not perfect. I have very good intel sources, but mistakes can be made by anybody on this planet who is not yet ascended, who is not yet completely and absolutely enlightened. So it's always good to use your own discernment. And one more thing, people have different intel sources. I have my sources, Corey has his sources, other people have their own sources, Full Fork has his sources, and information does not always correlate completely, simply because there is a larger picture and we are all parts of that larger picture. So as we come closer to the planetary liberation, this larger picture will become more and more detailed and more clear. And I would like to invite everybody just to use their own discernment and to make some deep research in that larger picture, and do not attack anybody just because their intel is a little bit different from what you believe.
That's really good, Cobra, and I really appreciate that. I'm glad we're doing the second interview. That was better than the first one. It was a wonderful start, and one of the reasons I love you and support you so much is I just have to say it's an ethical position, and, I like to be open to different positions. When something goes against kind of what I've learned, I like to think that it's my own inner guidance, but sometimes it's my own ego on what I thought I knew, and I get a little tenacious in holding on to what I want to believe. I may stamp my little feet, but I want the whole truth, and I will amend my understanding as the truth is presented to me. So those are wonderful words of wisdom, and I appreciate that.
I would like to say something more. If we have conflicting information, it just means that we do not have the whole picture and there is some part of intel missing. There are various reasons for this. One of the reasons is that some intel, if it is released too early, could be dangerous for the operations of the light force. So certain things are withheld for a reason. The second reason is that some intel is simply not yet present on the surface of the planet. And as we come closer to the event, more and more of this will be released, and the picture will become clearer and clearer for everybody.
Okay, Cobra, thank you for that. That's a very good point, that there is security issues and that this information just isn't available to us down here. So with that in mind, folks, I guess we're going to go into the next series of questions. Lots of information on the Cintamani Stone. I wasn't really involved in that, and someone came forward, donated some funds to me to help people out, and been sharing those, getting a lot of questions, Cobra. I did receive some Cintamani stones, which I've been processing a lot of orders for those to the people who needed them at half price, as well as for other people who wanted those stones. I personally put one on my third eye, and I used a violet wand and a laser at the same time. And, they're quite small stones. They're very rare. I was very surprised the next day. I had tremendous changes, and it was more powerful than a crystal. Can you talk a little bit about the effects on the light body of the Cintamani, esoterically what's happening with the Cintamani stone?
Actually, what this stone does, I will not go very much into deep detail because it's very sensitive right now, but Cintamani Stone actually influences the plasma plane, and it does influence the implants. There is a certain technology of the light forces that they can use, and they can transmit certain energies directly from the galactic center to the Cintamani Stones, and Cintamani Stones serve as lens for that energy, which then dissolves plasma. And it is not just another crystal or another stone, it is much more than that. There is a certain unique energetic signature of that stone, because number one, it came from Sirius star system, and number two, it was infused with energy directly from the galactic center many, many cycles ago, millions of years ago, when the planet in the Sirius star system exploded. It actually exploded because of the galactic superwave. And there are many subatomic particles which were traveling throughout the galaxy as a result of that galactic superwave, and they hit that planet. And every fragment of Cintamani Stone has those particles inside, and the light forces can use those to dissolve plasma in a certain way I will not describe here. But this is not just another New Age crystal, it is much more than that. It is one of the keys to the planetary liberation. Of course, you have the most powerful crystal inside, that's your higher self, but by using Cintamani Stone, you can amplify and speed up the process for yourself and for the planet.
Yeah, I have to say, I was very impressed with them. I was surprised how small they were, and I understand that I thought they were larger and bigger, and it turns out that there's different grades that affect the prices. I was quite ignorant of it when I made my post, but the translucent quality had a very nice reflection from the lasers. I know we talked about this, and I know that there was something about where the stone allegedly sits now that you maybe didn't disagree with. It's a different information, and again, doesn't mean that things don't happen. But
I would just say there are fragments of that stone in many locations. Majority of the stone was in the possession of the positive Archon Network for thousands of years. Fragments of that stone were taken to various locations around the planet, including Lake Titicaca. But this is not the only location. There are many stones, especially in underground locations on the surface of the planet, and not many of them are present. And now many of those smaller fragments are being distributed to the light workers and light warriors worldwide to create a planetary network of light.
Very good. And just so you folks know, the conversation I had, I did post a little about my friend Louis Martin, the contactee from South America, who has been inside the inner retreat of the Great White Brotherhood, the Archon Network, as well as the Galactic Confederation, has told me that the Cintamani Stone, from his understanding, was bought from Sirius by 30 different races. 30 different ascended masters bought it here, was placed in the Gobi Desert, and according to him, at least one of the eggs, Cobra has more information. I do not see these as mutually exclusive. Both of these gentlemen are very well connected. They're way above me in the pay grade of contact, so I defer to both of these brothers, and their information coordinates. I did not tell Louis anything about Cobra's information, and he basically backed up what Cobra said 100%. And he did say that there is a pretty large egg-shaped piece of the Cintamani Stone which exists beneath Lake Titicaca. So interesting stuff, folks. Cobra, how would you recommend people use this stone? They're quite small. They could obviously, I was thinking of maybe putting some into necklaces. I have a guy who does some stuff, but when people get these stones, how do you recommend that they use these stones? Is there any particular special things? Should they keep these away from other people and use them privately for themselves, or how do you think these should be used?
I would recommend people to just have physical contact with the stones during the meditation, and to have that contact will create an energy flow that can assist you in connecting with your higher self and transmute the plasma field around you. Those stones actually maintain their purity regardless of other people, so you don't need to worry about that.
Okay, thank you. It's like Fred said with some of his scalar wave tachyon energy fields, they can't be misused. It always comes back on the person. In the case of the Cintamani Stone, it would cause some issues for the bad guys. So just know, folks, that it's all good there. We're going to go into some of the regular questions of people for this month. We've got some interesting and not so interesting stuff. This is a little late. Some of these questions may be a little out of line there, but some of them are current events and some them are just general metaphysical questions. We asked these in the first interview. I apologize again, Cobra, for having to restate these. But someone says, will the 3 days of darkness, which have been spoken about for years, where they take place, and can you explain it?
Okay, this is part of the old collective memory from the time of Atlantis, and this time it will be different. There will be no 3 days of darkness. Actually, in the last galactic superwaves, which happened thousands upon thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago, there were days of darkness because there was a lot of debris in the atmosphere as a result of the solar coronal discharge. But this time, it is a little bit different for many reasons. And when the event happens, and after the event, as we go through this great cosmic transition, there will be very strong light forces present, which will transform the whole situation.
Okay, another question we have, and we're trying to get through these for all the people as much as we can this month. Can you talk about the ancient Indian mounds in the Midwestern United States? Some people were telling me that those were used for prayers, and they had some sort of scalar thing to manipulate weather in a good way, or were these are good, bad? Were they like vortex sites to connect with high energies? Can they be used now? What's going on with those mounds?
Actually, some of them were burial sites, some of them were created for positive rituals to connect with the source, and unfortunately some of them are used as sacrifice sites by the negatives. So we have a mixed situation here.
So same old good guys get something going, the bad guys come in and take it away. Let's hope that the big changes coming forward in the future here can clear that up. This isn't so recent. This question is probably from last month here, folks, but a lot of people were wondering. We had some major storms and activities, and some people were indicating, I got a couple of these, that they were feeling unrest, and I don't know if this affects the plasma scalar field or people's etheric bodies in reaction. Can you talk a little about solar stones and how that affects implants or people, or does that have any effect on people's consciousness in a negative way or destructive way?
Actually, this is a two-sided coin again. The solar storms, part of this is just a discharge of a very clear plasma which purifies the plasma anomaly, and on the other side also there's a purification of a negative plasma around the sun. So those solar storms are actually being triggered by the increased galactic central sun activity, because everything needs to be purified, and you can view them as part of the global and cosmic purification process.
Excellent. That actually is very much in alignment with Dr. Fred Bell's book, Rays of Truth and Crystals of Light, where he talks about the sun creating energy waves, which is obviously downloaded from the galactic central sun, which are designed to purify and upraise the vibration of all life streams on this planet. So we're wondering here, someone asked about the 12-strand DNA, why we have two. Can you talk about, were these turned off? Will they be turned on again? Are they crystalline? There's some questions. Give us the Cobra information on the 12-strand DNA.
Okay, 12-strand DNA is not etheric DNA. So everybody that's speaking about DNA activation, they are not speaking about physical DNA. They're speaking about the etheric blueprint. And of course, if you align the etheric blueprint, the physical body will follow sooner or later. And on the physical plane, we have two strands of DNA, as every scientist can confirm by doing analysis of DNA.
Okay, I really like that, because obviously people say there's 12 strands DNA. They've heard about it. I have 12 strands. And I said, well, science isn't going to back that up. Obviously, science doesn't have the ability to look in the etheric plane or the higher frequencies, so that absolutely makes sense. It's a wonderful explanation. There's an interesting, a lot of people going around now talking about the Archon Network. Actually, a famous person, I'm not going to mention him, kind of said that the idea that we're forced into reincarnation is a cabal trick and all that kind of stuff. It's very complex. We've talked about this before, but I did get a couple questions last month in regards to clarification, because this person's quite famous, talking about the archons in control of the reincarnation process, that were tricked into reincarnation. Do we have a choice to come into the earth in reincarnation at all, or we kind of have to come back until we achieve a certain frequency, or are we literally caught in a ring pass knot where we cannot exit the incarnation process only by ascension?
Initially, it was our individual free choice to enter this section of the galaxy which was considered dangerous. So we consciously took a risk of entering this area to assist in the liberation of this area. And this sector included planet Earth. And after we entered this area, we got implanted, and since then we were trapped in the incarnation loop. So you couldn't just change your mind and exit this area. It was not possible. It's very, very rare for anybody to be able to leave quarantine Earth. It is extremely rare. No matter what anybody wants to say, people make claims to the contrary. They need to give supporting evidence to that.
Okay, and I'm not going to mention names, but the person who made that statement has no contact. He's basically kind of like me, a reporter. He does have his own experiences, I suppose, but he's not in a direct contact like our emissary here. I have faith and trust in that information here. I guess I just interviewed the Red Dragon ambassador. I'm going to kind of pop in a question here on my own. Can you talk about, do you know, we've talked about the, I'm not sure if I pronounce it, the lady named Domu, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. She is in China. Obviously, that's a very high spiritual person, and there's obviously strongholds of the, I like to call them light forces, not to divide the light and the dark, but in all countries of the world. Can you talk about the Chinese elders and the alleged elder emperor, he's called, or the grandfather of the Dragon Society? The ambassador I just spoke to told me that he is an alien-human hybrid, and he actually said that from his understanding, he was told he is from the Anukai. Does that have anything to do with the Greys, the Araco-Dryad influence, or is that just mysteries, or what do you know about the Emperor? The question is, because I ask a lot of questions at once, but the question is talk about the Dragon Ambassador.
I will not talk about Dragon Ambassador. I will not talk about the Emperor. I will just say that there are various factions of dragons, and even we have the blue dragons, we have the red dragons, we have the positive dragons, we have the negative dragons, we have the mixed groups. Everything is there, not just in China, also in Japan, in Korea, in Malaysia, in the Philippines, in Southeast Asia in general. So if we focus more on the positive side, there are many lineages with a lot of spiritual wisdom, many elders which are hundreds and hundreds of years old, some of them with direct or indirect connection with the positive Archon Network. And these are the ones that are assisting in stabilization of the transition process. So if you want to have a more specific intel about the dragons, you need to specify which group are you talking about, because there are so many dragon groups out there.
Yes, and the ambassador mentioned that. He said there's disinfos, there's posers. He maintained that the dragons originated in China and that there's the various other Asian groups, at least in terms of the accounts, are called tigers. But obviously there's Agartha networks like Louis in South America. And there's many different Agartha networks in contact with different people on the surface of the planet, enacting various aspects of the plan at this point. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
So each different group is very silent, and this financial reset seems to be that they're coming out in public. So that's interesting. Can you share any of the other groups' general plans that you know about? You don't have to name names or countries, but other Agartha networks in different parts of the world that are working with the surface population for truth and justice.
The Agartha network is not working directly with the surface population. They have very few contacts with the surface population, and I know some of them, but I will not release their plans right now. They are working in their own way. Some of people who have indirect contact are visible. On the surface, they release intel in one way or the other, but those who have more direct contact do not work in public. They work indirectly through some other people. They guide certain projects indirectly, but they are not part of the surface information network.
Okay, thank you. That's a fair answer. I have a question. Someone actually asked this, and it's like my fifth question here, and it kind of coincides with the talk here. Someone wants to know, were dragons real? Where did they come from? When were they on Earth? And what happened to them?
Dragons as entities were real. They were living here for many millions of years, part of the animal evolution. Some of them evolved beyond animal evolution. Many of them were part of the draconian archetype. And of course, we have the positive draconian archetype and the negative draconian archetype, and both were present on the planet. It's quite a complex picture.
Okay, I have a little personal question. Did any of them actually breathe fire?
Not breathe fire, but I would say a strong, not a physical fire, but etheric fire, yes, I would put it this way.
Okay, and would you say, are there any of the positive reptilians out there of the dragon type? Obviously, they get a lot of bad press, like the Greys and stuff, and obviously with so many different type of genuses of the human type, bipedal, two-armed humans or whatever, that there's many different ones, but are there positive ones out there?
Yes, there are positive reptilians out there. There are not many, but they do exist.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to some other questions away from this now. Someone asked about Krishna, the Indian god. Is he coming back to Earth when the event takes place? Where is he now? Is he still watching over Earth? Can you talk a little about that avatar incarnation from the Indian history?
Okay, Krishna is the same entity that is known in the West as Christ. Of course, that being is coming back. That being is coming back along with other ascended masters after the first contact.
Okay. Someone has a question here. In Japan, they do have memorial services for the dead, and people do have, have their mourning, and some people celebrate death in some cultures like the Irish and have someone a party when they pass over. The question is chanting useful? I know that in Tibet, there is a room in the Potala, according to Lobsang Rampa's books, where they have done chanting literally for like 1,000 years. It's never ended, and at certain times of the year. So with that chanting in Tibet and that thing there, they do have a ritual that supposedly guides wandering souls after death. Does chanting mantras or some of these intentions of people to help their loved ones passed over have any effect?
Yes, of course, they can help guide those souls into the light.
Very good. Okay, here's another question. If, after the event, if far advanced technology is open to the public, people are wondering, is it meaningful to study modern science now? Could it be an obstacle for acquiring new scientific systems of understanding after the event?
No, knowledge is an obstacle. If you get better knowledge, simply replace it with the old one. So yes, of course, you can study science now.
The follow-up question to that was, can you speak about, in particularly in maybe physics, biology? We know history is absolutely going to have to be rewritten from the ground up, and a lot of our understanding of certain things. But this person's a scientist. They were wondering if you could talk about any of the laws of basic science, physics, chemistry, or biology where some new information will be brought forward. If you know of any of these things that correct us. In our first interview, you mentioned...
Okay, in physics, of course, the second law of thermodynamics is flawed because it talks about closed systems. And in nature, in reality, we do not have closed systems because always on a quantum level, there is a communication. On a quantum level, there is a communication. Quantum foam, you can never isolate the particle from its surroundings because it communicates on a quantum level with the rest of the universe. So we do not have a closed system. And so the second law of thermodynamics is flawed. Again, we have two basic modern physics theories. We have the theory of relativity and we have the quantum mechanics. And they don't go together well, simply because there are many parts missing and because the physics doesn't accept the reality of the ether. It does not accept the reality of higher dimensions, and it still cannot explain gravity. So we have many things here which are incomplete or deliberately altered by the Cabal. Chemistry is quite okay. I would not have any major things to say about chemistry, but biology is another thing. We have, of course, the Darwinist theory of evolution, which is flawed. Then we have the genetics, which is, I would say, 60% wrong because it doesn't take into account higher dimensions. The etheric plane is actually a blueprint for the transmission of the genetic information. And then if you go towards the field of medicine, it's very separatist. It's very isolationist. It doesn't take a look at the whole system. So we have many things that need to be corrected and many approaches that need to be upgraded here.
Okay, very good. I have another question directed to me by an individual you and I have talked about previously with our friend Eduardo, and it has to do, we're going to kind of go back to the financial question here. He finally just sent it to me. The question is, will you share with us the true and occult history of the global collateral accounts, specifically its origins, and the future purpose of it?
We can go far back into history when there were many dynasties, many royal dynasties in various parts of the world, which were gathering wealth in positive ways and not so positive ways. And those royal dynasties, some of them were connected with the light forces, some of them were connected with the bad guys. And through the process of cultural exchange and trade, those dynasties got to know each other, and they created, slowly they were building a planetary network. And I would say in the beginning of the 20th century, they have actually, the beginning of this plan goes to the 18th century, but it was completed during the 20th century when they have decided to intermarry between those people of those different royal dynasties throughout the planet, intermarried, and they wanted to create a global system of finance, some of them with the agenda for equal and fair distribution of wealth, and some of them with the agenda to control the wealth and to control the planet. And the bad guys took over, of course, as we can see in the modern financial system. But the basic idea was to create a global financial system. A global financial system can be a good thing if it's in the hands of the light forces, and it can be a very bad thing if it's not in the hand of the light forces, as you can also see in your daily experience. And through that interbreeding process, they have created something that is called M1. M1 is a person that has in his genetic makeup genes from all major royal bloodlines on the planet. And the first M1 was born in 1920s. And the period between, let's say, 1920 and 1940, those 20 years, was the period which defined what is happening in the occult financial system. This was after the creation of the Federal Reserve, as you know, but what was happening behind the scenes is that a global financial infrastructure was being created. The Bank of International Settlements is one example of this. And there were deals behind the scenes between the dragons, between the Western reptilian bloodlines and other bloodlines. In fact, what happened is that the reptilian and Cabal bloodlines took over the institute of M1, so they were controlling M1. M1 is like a president, it's a figure. Like you have a president of the United States that doesn't have any real power, but is a public figure to represent an idea. So M1 is not actually controlling the collateral accounts. M1 is just a figure, a symbolic figure, a puppet which is being controlled by the other forces. And the institute of M1 will be dissolved at the time of the financial reset. The collateral accounts will no longer be under control of any royal dynasty of any faction. They will not be in the hands of the dragons. They will not be in the hands of any group on the planet. They will be released to humanity. And the only way this can happen is under the guidance of positive forces that are not involved in the system on the surface of the planet. And that means the resistance movement, that means the positive extraterrestrial races, and you can name many of them, but only people or beings who are in complete alignment with their own higher spiritual guidance can take charge and can guide the process of taking care of the collateral accounts.
I heard from the ambassador. He confirmed what you just told me, so it's really enlightening for me, and I'm sure for many people who are going to be listening to the ambassador interview I did, that we're getting some cross-pollination of truth and facts and figures. He did indicate there are other accounts. He said that the famous Saint Germain account was actually from a dynasty that had to do with a Marco Polo wealth and gold, and he said that that is in the Austrian-Hungarian stronghold there. Would you know about that? Would you concur with that?
Yes, actually, the Count Saint Germain did have a banking account that was actually in the, at that time it was not Austrian-Hungarian, it was an Austrian Empire, Habsburg Empire. That banking account was in that region. And yes, part of that gold does originate from Marco Polo and from other, I would say, white nobility families from Florence and from other cities in North Italy. As you know, the Count Saint Germain visited Venice many times, and he has visited other locations in Italy many times. He was actually educated by Medici family. This is just a little bit for people to think about. So there are deep connections between white nobility families in Italy and Count Saint Germain, and he receives part of the wealth from them to put it into that bank account. And yes, that bank account was in the region of the Austrian Habsburg Empire.
Okay, so the Medici family was a white nobility family. They're not part of...
Yes.
Like the Orsinis and the Corsinis. Okay, here's another question here. It says, do you know the real reason why all the keepers of the global collateral accounts and the individual that I met who's holding the Santa Romano account, 3,375 accounts, he's kind of in hiding with a white shadow, as he says it, but he wants these funds to go to humanity. And he's a very humble guy, really well-intended. My hat goes out to you, brother. You know who you are. I've met him personally, and he lives a very kind of hidden existence, not coming out into the light of day very often. And he's been asked, this question is, do you know the real reason why all the keepers of the global collateral accounts who are from various nationalities are spread around the world are being asked by the Red Dragon family, through the ambassador I talked to today, to surrender their assets to China, especially when most of the gold is not stored in China, but mostly in Southeast Asian countries?
There are two things here. Again, there are the real keepers and there are so-called keepers. Many people claim to be keepers, some of them really are, and some of them are not. They do not possess wealth. They have certain codes, certain white books, red books, blue books, black books, with certain access codes to the accounts. It does not mean that the money or the gold is in those accounts anymore, because the cabal has stolen the majority of this. Regarding the gold is not where people are looking it to be. The gold has been relocated. And the other thing is, this will not be returned to China.
Very good. That's kind of was my feeling. And the ambassador actually mentioned something. He said, listen, they don't need the pieces of paper because he's under the impression that the dragons do have the gold. But there is a process with these codes, at least for the interest of these accounts, supposedly, that bad guys can't touch. I guess that's going to remain to be in the future. The final question from Brother Eduardo is, some of the keepers of the global collateral accounts have pure intentions and want to help the world. They follow your blog and listen to your interviews. Currently, the financial system blocks them from releasing these funds to humanity. Do you have any advice for them at this point on what to do with these assets they are the custodian of that they can finally release to humanity? And you mentioned they're not actually the assets, they're the codes, but utilizing that information. Do you have any advice for those global collateral account keepers who are well-intentioned and want to release this, divest themselves of this burden of responsibility and holding it for the good of humanity? What do you think they should do?
Okay, they need to connect with each other because they are isolated on purpose. The cabal has isolated some of the key people in various ways not to connect with each other. And some of this isolation is physical, some of this isolation is psychological. This is number one. Number two, they need to work on their inner obstacles. They need to work on their inner reasons why this has not been brought to completion. And then it's like a mandala when things click, when everything is ready. So when they will reach the state of inner readiness, the outer readiness will manifest. I have met some of those people and I have checked their backgrounds. There are many good people out there, but they need to continue until they reach a certain level when they can be pure transmitters of light in a way that they can be part of that mandala. And then when all this falls together in perfection, it's like a code that will unlock and it will open. So each of those keepers has one part of the code, one part of the answer. And when this all comes together, there will be a breakthrough. And each of those keepers is a potential person that can make this breakthrough because it's like the cabal has put many shields around the accounts, many ways how to prevent the light forces for accessing those accounts. And when the right combination of factors and circumstances happens, there will be a breakthrough. And we just need one breakthrough, one small victory in this area, and then there will be a chain reaction which will be unstoppable.
Very good. I really like that. That cleared up a lot. It is kind of letting us all know that, it seems like Cintamani stones and people coming together, the energy can really be good here. Folks, I've had a big money day, so play Pink Floyd, Money. I want you to play Can't Buy Me Love by the Beatles. Money Can't Buy Me Love. We're going to move on to some other stuff here. Some more interesting questions from our people from around the world who follow you, Cobra. Why are the Basque, Finnish, and Hungarian languages unrelated to all other European languages and to each other? When and how did they originate? You gave a very great answer in the first time we got scrubbed, but...
Okay, basically the Basque language comes from old European civilization that was living in Europe before the first Archon invasion. The first Archon invasion came from the Khazarian area about 6,000 to 5,000 years ago, and most Indo-European languages originate from that invasion. Also, Finnish and Hungarian languages are not related to those Indo-European invaders, and this is why they are different from all the other languages.
Okay, someone has a question. They have a friend, and I guess this would be answered after the event, but they have a friend who has some degenerative diseases who've lost their memories. Will they be able to recoup these? Is there a technology in a way? You can't erase the soul memory, but the physical mechanism can be destroyed. They can't retrieve them. Will this happen after the event?
Yes.
Okay. Here's another question here. Since you're trying to liberate the human race from the cabal, the Western version of the New World Order, and now the BRICS Alliance appears to set up another New World Order, Eastern version, he wants to know, how are we going to know the difference between the old boss and the new boss?
There will be no new boss. The new infrastructure that is being created is not to promote China or Russia or the Eastern countries. It is to serve as a vehicle to defeat the cabal. And this is a big difference. And you will only know the difference when you experience it, not before.
Absolutely. Can you talk about the Secretary of State, John Kerry? I saw a picture of him in his arm in a sling. Allegedly, he broke his arm in a car accident. Some people say it was actually a French gun battle. I'm not sure of how they kept that out of the public, but was it an assassination attempt? Was this the good guys, the bad guys? Can you talk about what happened to Senator Kerry?
It was an assassination attempt, yes.
Was this by reactionary forces within the Earth's positive military or some other group?
Actually, basically, it was the other way around. It was by the negative guys because Kerry was trying to break off from the cabal.
Really? Wow, because he's been a pretty heavy-duty supporter of all of their stuff. I have to have a follow-up question here. What is he trying to do now? Has he been threatened? Is he feeling it's time to change his tune?
He will now keep a low profile because he received a warning from the cabal not to do anything. He will just keep a low profile now.
He'll just kind of do what he's told to do. And
yes, exactly.
He's made an attempt. And would you have any information? Is he at the higher levels of the cabal food chain? Does he know about the secret space program and all that stuff?
I would say he's part of the middle management. He maybe has some information, but not much. But the information he might have about the secret space program is saying.
Okay, there's another interesting question. People wanted to ask about the situation in Poland. The presidential elections in our country shows that Polish people can change their mind. Awakening Society of Poland shows that big support gives new structures like the Powell Kukis and Duda, who I guess won an election. Does it mean those are positive changes for election? How will the situation look like for the Polish people in the future?
There is a lot of Jesuit influence in Poland. And those elections are potential for being a beginning of the change. But the situation in the next few months will reveal how much the real Jesuit influence has been diminished.
Okay, I guess that's a wait-and-see question for you people there in Poland, as it is for all of us everywhere. It says recently, but of course I'm a little late on the interview this month, so it's been quite almost 40 days since we talked. But the Pope has just held a meeting recently, I guess, with Putin. What was the purpose of that? Can you talk a little bit about what the situation was between them?
Okay, there were things happening behind the scenes in that meeting. Basically is that Jesuits have received some warnings from the BRICS Alliance.
Very good. That's great news from us, and I'm hoping the BRICS Alliance are the good guys, as a lot of us are intending. Russia and the good guys in China are closely aligned with the BRICS Alliance, correct?
Yes, absolutely correct.
Okay. So here's another question that's near and dear to my heart. Can we ask if the resistance movement will contact event support groups, possibly through the Prepare for Change website team? Will that happen during the event, before, or possibly after?
The resistance movement will contact certain individuals that are part of the certain events of the groups, not through Prepare for Change, but most likely directly through email or telephone. This will happen for certain people in the initial phases of the event, for other people a few hours after the event, and for other people a few days after the event. And they will be given certain instructions. If they are willing to follow those instructions, they will receive more.
Okay, someone says, what will happen after the last remaining Chimera implant stations are removed from our solar system? Does that mean, will the etheric implant network still be up, but no more implants will be in place, or was this all simultaneous with the event?
We also have implant stations on the planet or even below the surface of the planet, so the solar system is not the only location. Basically, the main implant stations are not on the physical plane, they are on the plasma plane. So when the solar system is liberated, it's not yet completely the end of the story.
Okay, I guess it goes back to the Free the Colonies meditation, which was several posts ago for you. The question was were all the objectives met during the rescue mission of these colonies?
Most of them, yes, not all of them, but I would say the operation was, 80% successful.
Okay. Someone talked about Alex Jones, and I think it was also Ben Fulford. They say something big is about to happen. Of course, this is just filtering down there. These guys are kind of like me. We're different, but we're reporters, and we both get a sense that things are coming to a head. Can you speak of any particular positive plans by the light forces in the near future? Some people have talked about September. I have a contact that indicated to me that September will see some changes, and they weren't specific, but can you talk to anything positive in the near future that may be coming forward?
I will not give any specifics because things that are happening are very unpredictable. Closer that we get to the final moment of the breakthrough, the more unpredictable things become. There is more chaos. There is more volatility in every situation. So it's not possible to make any concrete predictions at this point. And September time frame is an interesting time. That's what I can say. But I will not give any specific predictions what will happen in September.
Okay, I had an interview recently with Alex Collier, and we talked about timelines and lots of different subjects there. And he mentioned the CERN collider. According to his information from the A's, they were going to try and use CERN to merge various timelines into one negative New World Order timeline. He didn't feel it would be possible. But would you concur with what Alex said, that CERN is being attempted by the dark forces to a certain extent to solidify certain negative timelines to occurring and merging?
I will not put it this way. I would just put it that they're trying to open negative portals, plasma portals. They want to create more strangelets. They want to create more anomaly. They want to maintain the remaining anomaly. And that's why they're using this accelerator. But this accelerator is far less dangerous than the other one on Long Island. So there is too much focus on CERN and not enough focus on what's happening on Long Island. Because the accelerator on Long Island has produced stable strangelets already last year. And those strangelets went to the center of the Earth when they are being accumulated. Thankfully, the light forces can do many things about this, but still, it will be good that light workers and light warriors put more focus and start healing the situation on Long Island with their meditation. That could help a lot.
Interesting question. Someone asked, what happened to Marina Orsic and the other Vril girls after World War II? Now, for those of you who don't know, the Nazis, the Thule Society was kind of taken over by the Nazis. They were a group of spiritualist girls that were very psychic and spiritual, in contact with positive ET groups. And their information was kind of hijacked by the Nazis for technology, and then the Nazis made their own contact with the Greys and reptilians. What happened to these positive, innocent, spiritual women who were seeking to advance technology to the Earth?
Okay, they were paper-clipped into the United States when they were continued to be misused by the cabal, and actually their spiritual gifts were kept to be misused for quite some time after the end of World War II.
Okay, and did they ever go down to South America? Did they get paper-clipped from there, or did they come straight from Germany? What was the story there?
I don't know exact route they took, but they went from Germany to the United States, one way or the other.
And they were misused by the cabal for some time after. Do we know, are they still alive now?
No, not anymore.
I don't have anything in particular going on at this moment for a particular question with a short time left. I guess I'm going to leave it to you to, at this tremendous accelerated rate of information, and the misinformation and confusion element is certainly rising with more and more data dumps from positive whistleblowers, insiders, contactees like yourself with slightly different information. Obviously, you gave a mention for people not to freak out and to attack others, but to just sit back and kind of absorb it all. Any positive message or anything that you'd like to share with our listeners here? You got 2 or 3 minutes if you just want to give anything that you felt was important, a question wasn't asked that you feel people should know.
I would just say it again, do not attack each other. Focus upon the light, hold the light, or hold the focus, keep on pushing because we need to make the final breakthrough.
Well, that's a good one. That's really short and sweet. And again, Cobra, I have to apologize for the corrupted file from last month. We've checked it a couple of times. We have a good file. I think we're good to go. I thank you so much for your time and your patience with me on this month. And we'll look forward to another interview next month. And I'll wish you well. And the Cobra Blogspot portal folks, keep checking in on that. Some amazing information going viral. You don't even have to go there anymore. Everyone's sharing the information. Cobra, thank you so much, and victory to the light, brother.
Thank you, everybody, for listening, and victory of the light.